What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Concrete Edge right here on Deco-Crete TV. My name's Jeff, and today's episode is all about roller covers. Which ones are the best for certain situations? Should you be worried about the price? And what are the go-to options for decorative concrete? So stay tuned and you're gonna learn all about it. So if you've been in the decorative concrete business for a while, I mean, you're probably pretty well aware of all the different tools and supplies that you're gonna need for the job. And it seems like every time you learn a new facet of the industry, man, you gotta go out and buy a whole bunch of new tools just for that. But one constant in this business, however, is roller covers. I mean, they might be a small cost item, but we would be in a world of hurt without them. So the question is, how important is it to use a specific roller for every different application? Well, like most of the answers in this business, it just depends. So there's two different ways to approach this if you're looking for a completely black and white answer here. Now, we could get hung up on every little detail and use a different roller for each different thing we're doing, or we could take the exact opposite approach and just buy the cheapest thing we can possibly find and use that one roller cover for everything. Now, if I can give you any advice on this, it would be to just not take such an all or nothing approach to this. And if you stay tuned to the end of this video, we'll give you our recommendations on just a few types of roller covers that'll keep you covered no matter what you're doing. So first thing up is cost. And I tell you, I have dealt with hundreds of contractors over the last 12 years, and there just seem to be some out there that are hell bent on buying the cheapest thing they can possibly find. I mean, I've even had plenty of them tell me that there's no way that they're spending that much on a roller. Now, I get it. No one wants to waste money, but in this case, I mean, how much money are you actually wasting? So let's just do a little bit of math here. I mean, the difference between the most expensive and the lowest costing roller cover that we sell here at Deco-Crete is exactly $3.84. So if you're doing a 1,000 square foot metallic job, I mean, you're gonna use 6 to maybe 8 rollers depending on your technique, and that's even figuring it a little bit high. But let's just take it even farther and say for a second that you ended up using 10 rollers on that job. And then you found those rollers at a discount store and you saved $5 a roller. Well, you just saved $50 on a $10,000 project. And in most real world cases, I mean, the savings is actually gonna be way less than that. And so is that really worth the risk? I mean, no one can answer that question but you. Honestly though, if $50 is a big deal on a job like that, I mean, you probably need to take a look at your pricing and you got a bigger problem than roller covers. The point is, find a roller cover that you can't live without and just don't worry too much about the cost. Now, the other side of this would be overspending, and I mean, for the most part in our business, these are one-time use items, and so are paintbrushes. You know, so going out and buying a ridiculously priced roller or a $15 paintbrush, I mean, that doesn't make much sense either. So, what things should we be looking for when we're shopping for roller covers? And I mean, first and foremost, we need to have a truly shed and chemical resistant cover. And this is for pretty much every aspect of decorative concrete. I mean, I just wouldn't buy it if it sheds or if that core is gonna break down in a short amount of time. I mean, how much does this matter? Well, I've had to completely remove a pretty thick coat of epoxy on a bathroom vanity because we used a shitty cover. It left so many hairs in that epoxy that we couldn't even sand them out later. And I've also been on jobs where, you know, the cores were just breaking down and we had to change out our roller covers like every 30 minutes. And so those are two pretty extreme examples, but this stuff does matter. So the other thing that we're looking for is what kind of material the cover is actually made out of. And I mean, to me, this depends on whether it's stamped concrete or whether it's a floor coating. So personally, I want nothing to do with the traditional roller cover like this. For floor coatings, I'm looking for something that more of a microfiber material like this one. Now, stamped concrete, on the other hand, I mean, honestly, these traditional woven roller covers are gonna work just fine. And I mean, when you start looking around on the manufacturers' websites that make roller covers, I mean, there is tons of information for you guys to read, but I will say this, most of what's out there is gonna be on painting and not on concrete applications. And so, you know, we're not painting walls with this, we're coating or we're sealing concrete, and we're gonna have to figure a little bit of what we prefer out on our own. Honestly, I mean, even though we have, you know, quite a few different options on our shelf here, there are literally 3 different rollers that we use for pretty much everything. Now, one thing that is gonna change a little bit, you know, depending on the application, is gonna be the nap size. And so again, this is just depends. Is it stamped concrete? Is it a floor coating? And honestly, I look at it as stamped concrete and then everything else. But even when it comes to stamped concrete, I mean, some surfaces have a little bit of texture, some have a lot of texture. Obviously, if you're unbroomed or, you know, anything else, it's gonna be smooth or even less. So what we recommend is for stamped concrete, the absolute minimum would be a 3/4 inch. And if it's a really deep, heavy texture, I mean, you might even want to go all the way to 1.25 inches. Now, if you guys are still sealing your stamped concrete by dipping your sealer out of a pan and rolling it out on the slab, I mean, honestly, this video is not about sealing concrete, but please check out the other videos on our channel that are about sealing stamped concrete because, you know, to us, dipping and rolling is just not a good idea. We prefer a spray and back roll method. Now, in the spray and back roll method, you know, that roller is almost getting used more to mop up the excess than it is to apply the sealer. So something like this that's really, really thin is just not gonna get down into those textures, and it's also not gonna absorb the amount of material that we need to. You know, if we go to 3/4, on the other hand, you know, this has got a lot more there. It's just gonna soak a lot more up, and then all the way up to 1.25 inches, you can see how big that roller cover is. It's gonna absorb a lot more. We've honestly seen a lot of jobs that ended up having problems with their sealer because they used too short of a nap roller. It ultimately led to getting too much sealer on that slab, and you know, that just leads to a lot of problems down the road. Now, when it comes to floor coatings, I mean, it can depend a little bit by how thick of a coating you're putting it on there. But you know, this is gonna be anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And generally the most common is gonna be 3/8. And that works really great for primer coats, epoxies, things like that. You start going thicker though, you might have to you know, up that to 1/2 inch. Now, my personal favorite roller for pretty much anything but stamped concrete is this one right here, and it's actually a 5/16 nap. Now, to me, this is not my favorite roller because it's 5/16. It's my favorite roller because it's what it's made out of, and that's just what they offer. They don't have 3/8, they don't have 1/4 inch. My point is that if you find a roller that you fall in love with, it's really putting that coating down nice for you, don't get too hung up on just a little bit of nap size. I mean, it just needs to be close. Now, another question that we get a lot of, and another place we see people try to cheap out a little bit is, you know, 9 versus 18 in length. And honestly, the easy answer is we want to use an 18 whenever we can. Now, this is not only going to be a lot more efficient time-wise, but if you think about this, 9 versus 18, and we make a stripe on the floor, every single pass, I'm doubling my chances of leaving a roller line behind. So I always prefer 18s unless it's just a really, really small job. Now, for floor coatings, honestly, usually end up with a combination of these two things, using this for the main area, and then I like a 9 to get all the way up along the walls. If you're able to tape your wall line off, and this is just gonna be a lot faster than a paintbrush. Now, you could also use a little 4.5 inch roller for this if you want to. All right, so we're gonna wrap this whole thing up with our recommendations on what are the go-to rollers for decorative concrete. And don't worry, this ain't gonna take very long because there's only a few of them. Now, we're gonna start off with stamped concrete, and honestly, this one right here. Now again, I'm not gonna get too hung up on the brand, although, you know, we are a big dealer of Worcester brush. You know, I'm not that specific on the brand, but this is in their economy line. I mean, this is not an expensive roller by any means, but it's also not the cheapest thing we can possibly find. It's just, it's got a great cover on, doesn't shed, the core holds up, but it's not on that high the price range. So something like this Worcester brush painter solution is great for stamped concrete. Now, when it comes to, and again, that would be in a 3/4 inch nap. If it comes to smooth concrete floors that you're just putting concrete sealer on, or maybe on broom concrete, same thing, you know, exact same line, just a little bit thinner. This one's 3/8. Now, when it comes to floor coatings, and for me, this is pretty much across the board, epoxy, polyspartic, polyurethane. To me, this one right here, I already showed it to you guys earlier, it's the Micro Plush from Worcester brush. I honestly, I don't even want to do a floor coating without this roller right here. For the most part, this 5/16 works well for most applications. Now, if you do get into a really thick coat of epoxy, it is available in 3/4, and so maybe you end up stepping it up. But for me, this is the one that I use for pretty much all floor coatings. All right, so I got one more roller left, and this is pretty specific, but I told you we'd have 3 different types that are gonna cover you for everything. But when it comes to concrete countertops, and again, this depends on the sealer or coating you're putting it on, but if you're using one of our countertop sealer kits, it's actually, especially for our matte finish one, it is really important that you use a foam applicator roller just like this one right here. It's really the only way to get the right finish on that. And so, you know, this isn't something that we're gonna use a lot, and if you don't use countertops, then this might not apply. But there you go. You got 3 different rollers. You know, you might need to change the nap size, but those 3 lines should get you through pretty much all, you know, normal applications. Well guys, that's pretty much it for this week's show. Hopefully this video was helpful to you guys in choosing the best roller cover for your next decorative concrete project. I also want to say thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video as well as all the rest of our videos. Man, we just can't tell you how much we appreciate all the support by you guys tuning in every week and always hitting those little buttons like subscribe if you're not already there, share them on social media. Please leave us a comment if we missed anything or if you have any other questions about roller covers. Now, if you are already subscribed, don't forget about that little bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and it really does help our channel out. So, from all of us here at Deco-Crete TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.